me again. Today's guest is brilliant Colin Higgins. Brilliant guest. Great to have him on. Wasn't always easy at times, and it's definitely an interview I wish I did better in. I think I could have done better. But yeah, it was brilliant. We tackled a few topics that were difficult to talk about, but yeah, I think it's great, and I really love his honesty, and I hope you guys also enjoy it. How are we doing, Colin? You all right? One second. We'll be there in 1 sec. Boo.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you perfectly. How are we doing, Colin?
Not bad, how are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. That's very English, isn't it? Well, no, I shouldn't say that. I've already got you on off the wrong foot, haven't I? No, that's very, should I say British? Is that the safe thing to say, Colin?
Oh, I don't care, mate. I'm not, what's it?
No, pleasure to have you on, man. Yeah, it's good to have you on. I had a chat with, what's it called, yesterday. I had a chat with, do you know Sully Sullivan?
Sully Sullivan. I'm terrible with names, man. So I'm not sure.
No worries, man. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Have you listened to any of the other episodes as a whole?
I haven't, mate. Sorry, I've been unbelievably crazy this last few weeks. It's been absolutely mental, and I haven't had a minute to even catch up on Drag Race, man.
You know what? Yeah, and you told me as well what's been going on. There's a lot been happening, yeah. And I should have.
Are we live, man? Are we live already? Yeah.
No. I do a little. It's a funny thing with this part of the podcast, because sometimes I've had a good conversation with someone, and it's just been like, let's just carry on anyway. But then in other cases, I go in and do the intro, but often I found that when I just go ahead and go straight to conversation, it's a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an easier conversation, because when I go into the podcast and I go, hello, welcome to, it becomes a bit formal, and I get a bit tense and you get a bit tense, and it's a bit rather than like a casual conversation. But I play it by ear with the podcast, and I see what happens.
So do I, clearly. That's fine. I don't really look into things too deeply, and I'd rather things were spontaneous. I think that's probably things you're at your freshest, aren't you?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, to a degree. I mean, definitely, as both of us being comedians, we know that. I mean, if we're doing that same joke and again, and it gets to the point where you just have to drop it, don't we?
If it gets a laugh, man, fuck it. I could.
Gets
a laugh.
Oh, even if you're feeling dead inside, what you do that old line that.
I'm a hooer. I don't give a shit, man. I'm just.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, we are. Yeah, let's go. Well, how much do you have to pay? And I'm joking. I spoke to. Do you know? You definitely know him, but Darren Connell.
Yeah.
He told me a dodgy story where he was with a comedy promoter, and he spoke.
About me?
I think it was you. Okay, shall I tell the exact story?
Okay.
He said that there's a lot of, we know that there's a few funny things going on with like promoters and female comics, but he says even with male comics you get that, and he said that even when you tell a few male promoters that you're not that way inclined, they still bother with.
How would you say I'm chatting him up like?
I think he said that. No, I don't know. He said some male promoters have still kept doing it.
I don't know any male promoters that are gay apart from me. I don't want to out anybody, but no, I don't think there's. It's a total no-no. That sort of stuff, man. It's like, and people, it's so fucking, I don't know, explosive. and there was a crazy time going on in the Scottish Comedy Forum. I don't know, you on that?
I've seen a couple of things. I remember I put a post up a while ago, and there's an old picture of mine where I'm wearing an England shirt, and I posted the question, and I got roasted for wearing the England shirt, and then I deleted the post. But
Mm.
that's all I remember. It's just a mad forum. I've seen it. I've seen pictures. The Edinburgh Fringe forum is mad as well. They're both mad.
Well, there you go. I don't think I think there was a lot of legitimate cases of promoters totally abusing their power. And if they have power, I never felt that powerful as a promoter running my wee gig. But you know, there was a lot of serious cases that were horrific involving a lot of female acts that none of us knew about them. And yeah, it caused a lot of bother. And there's been a lot of females have left the
Oh,
comedy circuit because they just don't want to deal with it anymore. But there was a nightmare promoter in Glasgow, an absolute nightmare. He who shall not be named. It was like something out of, I don't know, I don't know, like a pantomime villain almost. Like he should have been, I don't know, tying people to railway tracks and twirling his moustache crazy. But these people seem to be disappearing, and I'm really quite selective about who I'll gig with and the gigs I'll go and do, and unless I'm getting paid, you know.
hmm. Oh, actually, no, I did see a post recently. I saw a post. There was a guy that was said that wasn't paying anyone or something I saw that in the forum. Like he's not paid this guy for a year or something.
Oh, there's a lot of that. So that's as old as stand up, but that's as old as anyone getting on a stage. That so it's not very well regulated.
Do you get nervous with doing certain gigs that, especially with new promoters, about them not paying? Like they say they book you for a gig, do you get a bit shit? I'm booking maybe 20, 30 pounds to get to this gig, and there's a chance that this prick won't pay me.
Well, you know, it's not really the Scottish scene isn't anywhere near as lucrative as the rest of the UK. And if you're not really a headliner, then you're not going to be making any money. If you're going to get into comedy for money in Scotland, especially, then you're in for be singing the blues pretty soon. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of money. So I did a gig in Bo'ness, and I get, you know, it's middle slot. You know what I mean? So you know, just the way it is. It's like you'll have enough to cover your petrol if you're lucky.
Is it going to get to the stage where nearly all, even pro comics, have to have another job on the side before they do comedy?
Um, I don't see how else you would survive, especially with people with families and mortgages to pay. I find that, you know, I don't know how they would cope.
Yeah, it's and yeah, the Edinburgh Fringe as well. That's getting quite. I've heard, not only have I heard horror stories from comedians, but I heard horror stories from locals of what happened in Fringe. Like the barman at 32 Below talked about how he was kicked out of a property because of the Edinburgh Fringe.
Mm.
Like, and then I'm hearing from Uber drivers saying that they have friends who are deliberately getting rid of tenants so they can make 3 months of their earnings during the Edinburgh Fringe.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a few landlords in Edinburgh that are lacking in scruples, like you get everywhere. Um, I've heard of people vacating and subletting, but people getting kicked out to then go on, and that is just that's illegal, is it not? I don't know how they would get away with that.
That's what I've heard, and I don't know how they. But if you're a slimy, dodgy person like that, they've probably done the research in it and found the loopholes to do it, and they've paid a lawyer with no morals whatsoever, and some of them bloody don't, to get around it. It is funny with lawyers; they are brutal people.
Well, like I say, I'm a comedian in Scotland. you know, registered disabled guy. I'm not somebody who is going to be worrying about property law anytime soon.
Sorry about that.
It's not really something I'm up on, man.
But it's gotten quite dark already. This is the start of no, we need to change it. But yeah, so let's start again, Colin. So how have, you've had quite an entertaining life. I saw that some article about that you caught perverts in the bush, and you're enabled to. Well, I'm being polite with the word, but you helped convict a few dodgy, well, pedos really.
Yeah.
And I know that you've had an entertaining life to get into comedy. How did that start, and how does the entertaining parts of your life go with comedy?
Well, I mean, the pedo thing, the way that you phrased it, in the questions that you sent me, it was like you helped get some pedos caught in prison. Did you entrap them by trying to see themselves as they would see themselves? And I did not really make a head nor tail of that question at all. I didn't really know what it meant, or I thought, but I was a victim of abuse.
So
So it was me finally alerting some adults in my life what was going on, and then giving a statement to the police and having them arrested and taking them to court. Yeah, so I was at court dealing with them. I'd be about 15 years of age at that point.
Oh. It's what I meant by that was because I know that when I found the article, that's what they said of you. And do you know Larry King?
What article was that?
I saw some article on Google. I could maybe do a little Google search and when I find it, I'll give you the link, shall I?
There is quite a comprehensive account. I waived my anonymity in the press because, well, for different reasons, but the reporter who ran the story is somebody that I know personally, and I trust her implicitly. She's still a big part of my life, so it was fine speaking to her quite openly about it and dealing with it and kind of closing the door in a way on it. And I'm 40 and just getting going. I think it's important that people that are out there know. I thought I could never do stand up. I play the piano as well, and I had all sorts of aspirations, and so none of these things happened because my mental health was completely trashed by what had happened. And it was a very complicated story because when these two paedophiles came into my life, they were already very active and had a string of victims. There was like 15 names or something like that. And obviously, when I realised, you know, what the hell was going on, I was very, very. I was undiagnosed ADHD. I'm going through tests for autism and all that just now as well. It's so in vogue, isn't it? You know, and so I was very naive, but presented quite sort of not mature, but you know, not stupid, and you know, incredibly naive, and got myself involved in this situation through pals at school, and hadn't a clue what the hell was going on. Not a Scooby. I was aware of missing person posters all around the town I was living in. This is Largs on the west coast of Scotland. And there was a lot of posters everywhere with a missing woman. I was aware it looked a bit like, you know, Lost Boys at the start. you know, lads, they were everywhere because they were frantically looking for this young woman. She was a young mum. And then I realised when I was involved that the threatening, I knew them for a couple of months before anything happened. By that time, they'd got to know my mum was a single mum. They knew I'm such an open book that I would just sit and blather away. Didn't realise I was getting drugged with the beer they were giving me and all these things that were going on. And they then told me that they'd murdered this woman because she was a grass, and she had somehow become aware of what it was they were doing, and she challenged them, not having a clue who she was dealing with, clearly, and they killed her. And so they told me all about that. So when I went into the police station that day, 15-year-old boy with a social worker, and I told the police, and then I mentioned what had happened to this lady, and the cops nearly spun off their chairs. But there was no, as the Anil and Lachlan, these two bastards, pardon me, you like to swear?
Yeah, swear as much as you want.
So Anil and Lachlan, these two nasty chaps, you know, incredibly conniving, incredibly devious, incredibly dangerous. The older one used to be a professional boxer from Australia. Dangerous. I was petrified of them. Wouldn't mind bumping into them now, mind you. But I was petrified of them as a wee boy. And yeah. So it's a horrible, horrible thing. The police were gobsmacked. But there was no, as Anil and Lachlan told me, you know, there's no body, there's no crime in Scotland at the time, in Scottish law. No body, no murder. So we were watching the Arlene Fraser case very, very closely, because that was another case, and her husband murdered her, and they've never found her. And there's a few cases that are still going like that. And there's a lot of work by guys, Russell Finlay, who's a Scottish Tory MP. He's moving to change the legislation. So if you're in jail for a crime, but you won't, if you've been jailed for murdering someone and you do not disclose where the body is to give the family the closure, etc., then you won't get out, ever. So Russell Finlay, and he was a reporter, Russell. He's a good guy, Russell. A lot of folk don't like him. I think he's got a good heart in him, clearly. And he's now a Scottish Tory MP. And so, you know what I mean? It makes him very unpopular with some people, but when he's moving with stuff like that, it's a non-brainer, a no-brainer. And, you know, I'm not a Tory, but I would totally support Russell in that endeavour, because I think it's important. And these two are in jail now, claiming that they're lovers, and they're demanding all sorts of, you know, time together, phone calls and all that. And they've had their legal aid going to thousands trying to get things like that overturned. And I think it's an absolute disgrace and a complete and utter waste of money. So I'm happy to highlight the case and waive my anonymity, because I feel still quite responsible. I was the original complainer, and I've never spoken hardly to any of the other boys that were involved, but my heart's kind of with them, you know, and I wish them all the best. But obviously the story centres on Alison, who they murdered, and she had little kids, and I think 4 of them. And I'm in touch with her daughter now, which is nice. But there's all sorts of kids and grandkids and all sorts of stuff that she's never seen. And she martyred herself, really, trying to do the right thing, and had no clue who she was messing with. And these two then, Donald Finlay was their QC, and when I wasn't his ear, some of the things he said about my mum and things, and trying to defend this pair, until another lad he went in to give evidence before I did, or was going to, because for whatever reason, he met them before I did or something, I think. And on, I think, a few minutes of his testimony, the thing collapsed. Donald Finlay went, I think you better plead guilty. And they pled guilty, and they got a horrific sentence. We couldn't get them done for the murder, no body, no crime. And their story continues from there, sadly. They got out and destroyed my life and my family, my people that loved me and everything, doing what we did. And then they got out, and first opportunity, they buggered off, and they committed a whole load of disgusting crimes across Europe. They were questioned in the Madeleine McCann case because they were near there. My mother and stepdad had emigrated to Spain, and we found out that they were living half an hour away from them. And they were running a cleaning business called Rainbow Cleaning Services. And they were in complexes and resorts, full of families, full of kids. And they then came back and committed a whole lot of crimes down in England. And then we finally, I think we had the right evidence to go after them, and we did, and I had to go back to court again at, I think, 28, and trying to get my life together. I just started comedy. 2000, I started about 2010, I think. I'm really bad with dates, it's horrific. I started 2010, and then this all kicked off again. I had an absolute mental breakdown, and yeah, that was bad. And suicide attempts and all of that, and going on stage with no material, totally unrehearsed, just off my face on whatever I could get my hands on. And some nights it worked out great, and probably 80% of the time it was a complete disaster. And I just went completely bonkers and put on about 10 stone and drove a taxi and tried to just not kill myself for a long time, and had to go and give evidence. I was actually I was in hospital at the time. I had to get picked up from hospital to go to court to give evidence. And I'd had a bit of a Britney Sid Barrett moment and shaved all my hair off. And I was massive. I'd put on so much weight. And I had to go and give evidence that time. They weren't pleading guilty to murder. So we had to endure that, and walking in and seeing them there, and everything they did to me, and what they've done to other people, and what they've done to Alison, and never admitting what they've done, never disclosing anything about it, never giving the family any definitive kind of closure on what happened. And I think it's right that we expose them for that, you know, and let everyone know, you know, these people, if you know, MD lets them out, you know, they're completely the most asinine thing to do in the world. They're dangerous, and they'll be dangerous in the 70s and 80s. And they won't leave witnesses this time, you know, bad people. So there you go.
Yeah.
Comedy. So where were we?
Yeah, sorry. I don't. Yeah. The thing is about those type of individuals, it's not only the things they do, but it's the lasting effects for like future generations because they're going to damage people, and then there's the effect that with more people being damaged, they're going to have an effect on other people, and then it's not only
Yeah, so I found the word entrap quite bizarre because, I mean, obviously I'm quite passionate
the,
that people that are going to hurt children shouldn't be allowed to walk the streets, but I don't think entrapment. I'd originally made like, did you think I turned up on their doorstep like dressed like baby
so
hair,
let me let me
and then jump out with a big hairy cock and balls, busted? No, it didn't go like that, man.
no, because do you know Larry King?
Larry King,
Like he's a famous interview. He's no longer with us, but like he
yes, the
interviewed a lot of
American
the
talk
worst
show.
people around the world, and I've seen like different programs about how people have sent letters and actually got some of these people to confess to it, or and then they've, yeah. When he interviews some of these bad people, Larry King tries to see them from their side, and then, yeah, and I've seen a few documentaries of guys getting people that are like that into trouble by writing letters to them, and yeah.
It wasn't a Miss Marple job, this one. It was a victim of a horrific rape and then subsequent abuse. So I can't remember how long it went on for. It was they were threatening my mum, and I knew it wasn't an empty threat, because we killed this woman. But it was the worst thing they could have done because that was what made me speak. And yeah, I went and spoke to someone I trusted, and that panic button was slammed, and life was never, or was ever going to be the same again, ever, anyway. So it's a terrible thing, and a lot of therapy, and a lot of dark, dark, horrible times. I stopped drinking. I'm a year sober, passing the 22nd of October. So I'm a year sober. I don't bang the sober drum too loudly because I still leave the chemist every month with a wheelbarrow full of drugs. Morning, walking out. But you turn 40, it's great. Your doctor just turns into a free drug dealer. It's mad. I've never experienced anything like it in my life. I can't brush past him without getting codeine and it means rammed into my fucking pocket. Not that I'm complaining. And he phones me as well. I live in quite a small town. So my doctor phones me quite regularly to see how I am and all that. And my old drug dealer never did that. He never phoned to see how I was. I don't think he had my best interests at heart, looking back. But we fucking take the help that's given to us. And I had EMDR therapy, eye movement, desensitization and reprogramming therapy. It's military grade kind of psychotherapy to get you over PTSD, frighten you better. It's quite in your face. It's quite intense, but it works. So I then decided to maybe shadow. Although I started comedy back in 2010, 2011, and I stopped. I had maintained some relationships with people and constantly writing all the time. And I approached a very famous comedian who remained nameless, and I said to her, "Look, can I please come and flyer for you and just watch what you're doing?" And she said, "Yeah, that would be great." And I went and I basically was working with this pro who had this all access to the fringe. My first fringe was just incredible. The experience. I wasn't performing, just behind the scenes, meeting everybody, seeing how it all worked and how pros work and how shows work, how everything really works at that level. It was an absolute education. And then 2000, that was 2017. 2018, a lot of the pros were telling me to go and do Viv G's comedy course, which I didn't. I'm quite a purist. I wanted to resist that sort of thing, till it was pointed out that people who are quite guff go and do these courses and then would then be just ahead of you. You know, so go and learn, go and see what it's about and see what they've got to teach. And Viv G is just a master at teaching people, because she sees you and the comic that you're maybe trying to be, or the comic that you've got in you and all that kind of stuff. She really knows her stuff. And she does wonders with people. She certainly did with me. And I've had great support from Des McLean and Martin Moore and guys like that as well, with some beautiful kind of assistance and tutoring and stuff like that. And yeah, I just got tore in, jumped in, started running a wee gig and gigging regularly, and you know, before you know it, you're taking part in a documentary about Billy Connolly for the BBC.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, but life has not got any easier. And when you're living with trauma, and especially if it's something that's really quite massive and really complex and difficult, life's still going to be hard. So life's a bitch for everybody, you know. So if you're already dealing with something really major, odds are you're going to have to deal with other things that are really major, when you're not in a good place. So you know, life can be very difficult. And my life has been, anybody that follows me on social media will see, will have witnessed, you know, I've had a lot of tragedy in my family, and a lot of people close to me not being well and stuff. So it's been really difficult. And COVID, it's just been the toughest time. I lost my sister, she was 40, and it's her 4th year anniversary on November the 6th. And it was traumatic, you know, and our passing was really difficult. It was a hard thing that she went through, and it was hard on those of us that had to sit there with her while it happened, and it was hellish. And with it being like the early hours of the 6th of November, we were lying in that hospital with fireworks going off outside. It was the most bizarre thing. Every time I hear a firework, you know, and you know, you realise you'll get PTSD later on in your life as well, you know, and if you've been through it, you recognise it. And you know, it's just, so a lot of trauma and a lot of grief, and you know, I was driving a taxi, and I was fed up of taking abuse off of drunk people and not making any money, so I get into comedy. And before you know it, you're at a gig in Edinburgh and you're getting punched in the mouth off an, you know, an unhappy person. And you know, it was all over the press. It was being shared all over the world, and nobody gave a shit. It's the funniest thing. But there you go.
So what was this? I know. What was the situation? How did it happen? So you were doing your hour show, and like
Listen,
midway through, some woman said, "I don't like what you said."
no. Right, nothing like that. She liked the show,
Okay.
loved the show. Right, I'm going to have to stand up in court and talk about this. But it's already kind of well documented in the press. And with the backlog, with everything that's going on, God knows. But me going back to court is not fun, as you can imagine. I don't like going, and they keep asking me to go to jury duty. And I was able to use the Fringe brochure as evidence to get out of jury duty. You know what I mean? But I'm going to have to. That's like the third one I've knocked back in the last 18 months. They've definitely wanted me to go up there for some reason. Anyway, yeah, it was a mixed bill show, and it was called oh fuck, pain spotting. And we kept changing it about pain stopping, pain spotting, and I've got ADHD, and that fucked my head. But it was a pun on train spotting. So pain spotting with that sort of with a sort of train spotting motif in the poster, you know, like looking like the guys from the movie. And it was about overcoming hardship and being able to laugh about it, right? And you know, but I don't obviously get into all this when maybe an audience. Obviously, they just hear my pattern. They don't necessarily know me and everything that's been on. But it was just me talking about therapy and talking about people that are mental and different things and getting over things and embarrassing stories and things like that. And there was three of us. There was Graham Mackey, guy with the big grey beard, Santa. He's probably one of the best MCs on the planet. He's incredible. And Cubby, comedian Cubby, who is a blind comedian, a pal of mine from Glasgow, and he's been on Britain's Got Talent and different things. He's doing theatres and doing tours and comedy collectors and doing really, really well. And so basically, we decided to put on a show just for 2 weeks or 10 days or something like that at the Fringe to go and check it out. Obviously, I'd been coming through an awful lot in my life. Didn't want to do a whole run. It's also too bloody expensive. You're talking about like money and stuff. I mean, we didn't break even at all from what all that hundreds of pounds we had to spend and save up and borrow to get to the Fringe. It was just crazy. And but we had a good show, and I had some cool wee things happening sound wise, and all sorts of cool wee things that were happening. And the show was good, and it was in three parts. Graham would open, I'd go in the middle, and Cubby would close. And this was the first day of the Fringe, and the show's going. I don't know, it was about maybe 20 people there, first Fringe, and these girls are at the back of the room, and they won't stop talking. And they're talking like they're at the bus stop. You know what I mean? Right? And they're obviously either drunk or whatever. And they're on it and they're out having a good time. And they're talking away like they're in the pub. And it was like, you know, Graham didn't address it. When I was on stage in the middle, I addressed it and asked them politely, could they please be quiet? And they did. And I think I need to take the video because I've got it on video. And then I came off and Cubby went on. Cubby's blind, so he can't really see what's going on in the room. So when he's on and I'm gigging with him, I'm aware of that. And so I'll address things he can't and things like that, if needs be. Right. It doesn't happen, but you know, you're alert in a different way when Cubby's on. And they're talking. Now, please be quiet. And they decided to leave. They knew that was the last Comic Con, so they're trying to sneak out without paying now, right? And it's a free Fringe. Listen, you don't have money to put in the bucket, or you didn't think the show was good, you're perfectly well within your rights to walk out without paying. Comedians don't give a fuck, right? So they're leaving. But as they're leaving, she comes up to me and she goes, right, I need to run. Her pal's gone to the toilet. She's like, I need to run. That show was great. It was really, really funny. That was awesome. And I went, can you please be quiet? And she went, you're fucking rude. And I'm like, right, oh, see. And she walks over to Graham and she's like, he's fucking rude, but the show, you were funny, I know. I'm like, look, shh, totally disrupting the show. So we went out into the venue had like the bit we were performing in. Then it's got like a little sort of foyer. Then it's got a kind of restaurant that the wee foyer goes into. So she's leaving, and I'm like, shh, and I'm just making sure the door gets closed behind her and all that. We're moving out. She's starting again. I'm trying to pull the door behind me, I think, to keep the noise down because disrupting the show and all that. And she just, when the door shut, she turned around and smacked me in the mouth with a closed fist. And I just kind of went, and you know, it's in moments like that that you really learn who the fuck you are. Because if you'd asked me 5 minutes before that, if that woman punched me in the mouth, what would you do? I'd have probably thought I'd have hit her back or done something, reacted. I didn't. And I then, she's violent, and it's like, you need to go. And we're getting the door open. This has all happened like that, by the way. The door open, move it into the kind of restaurant part of the venue. This is in Leithcourt. And the staff who have met me now a couple of times come running over. I don't know, I'm gushing for blood from my mouth. I'm kind of in shock, and I'm standing there, and she turned round and she pointed at me. She went, "He's just assaulted me," right? And I went, "Oh my God." I've had a few moments in comedy where I've seen something and I've thought, this is just chaos, and how we're going to recover for this? You know, the headliner raging storm off the stage after 3 minutes, right? And I was just like that, you know, it was like, what the fuck, you know, and I'd exhausted all my acts, and what am I going to fucking do? It was a moment like that. It was just like car crash fucking moment. And I'm thinking, that who's going to believe me? Because I mean, I'm a gay man, but I don't necessarily come across very effeminate or very gay. I just present as a very kind of heterosexual big guy. And, you know, if a female is accusing you of assault, then, you know, you're quite rightly in a lot of bother. But I knew, I'm standing there bleeding from the mouth. So I know the police are going to arrest us both, because I'm not going to say, well, that's true. I did assault her and she hit me back. So Ikey's, you know what I mean? It doesn't work that way. The police would have arrested me as well as her. And I'd have spent the first opening run of my very first Fringe run, my very first night, my very first run. I'd have been in jail in Edinburgh for the whole weekend, and the venue would have quite rightly said, you know, because it would have had to go into court and all the rest of it. Well, we can't be associated with you after that. And Colin Higgins assaults female. And you've heard how you've come on here thinking entrapment, that you know how things get completely misconstrued and people just talk utter shite. So, you know what I mean? And in comedy, I'd rather take my chances in a Tudor court, you know what I mean, than working in comedy. It is up there with like politics, journalism, just ruthless. People they do not give a fuck about you. And I very stupidly thought that, given my history, you know what I mean, people would maybe, you know, understand why I am the way I am. Maybe, I don't know. No. So it is what it is. What are you going to do? But as I say, I thought my life was over. I thought the future was done. Whole future just went up in flames. And I'm standing there, and I said to the woman who's tending my wound, can you please phone the police and get the police here? I need the police here. And she said, they've already been phoned. I went, great. And this woman is standing there, he assaulted me. And she said, and I'm thinking, there'll be no CCTV in that wee bit. What's the chances? And she's standing there, he assaulted me. And the owner, he came running down to see what was going on, to see I was okay. And the staff were amazing. And he came in, and she's saying, he assaulted me. I hope there's CCTV out there. And the guy went, aye, there is. I've got it in my phone. Wee minute. And he's, by that time, the police are there.
Oh.
Showed the police. There she is, turning around, walloping me, and me not hitting her back. You know, not. And I was in an enclosed space with this woman, and she was not a happy bunny. So scary, you know what I mean? But that was her bank rights. The police arrested her, but you know, I didn't feel good about either. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I know she's probably going through whatever she's going through in her life, and she didn't want that to happen, I don't think, and I certainly didn't want that to happen. And so it's all very, very regrettable, really, but it is what it is. There's not many comedians that I can think of that have been smacked in the mouth at a gig. There's, famously Will Smith, but that really wasn't a gig as such. Billy Connolly, he famously got punched in the mouth, and I think it was Perth in Australia, and by a Scottish guy apparently. And there was another guy, I forget his name now, was doing a gig the same just there in August, and a punter pulled a gun out. And it was obviously it wasn't a real gun, but it was a bloody convincing looking gun. And I think that guy, I don't quote me on this, but I think he walked away from the Fringe after that for the rest of that run. It really shook him up. And it's like I don't understand what people think when they go to a comedy show or a comedy club, that they've got any right to open their mouths, never mind physically assault anyone. What was that? Something went beep. But I don't. It's crazy that we're holding comedians to a higher standard than we do politicians. You know what I mean? Right now, more than ever, are these sociopaths making decisions, not in my fucking name, they're not, and not in the name of anybody that is a advocate for peace in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm getting quite ranty, and have we even covered any of the questions that you wanted to ask me?
We answered two of them, and there's definitely it's no, but it's
the good question you did ask they're all good questions. I don't mean that how that sounded. That was a good question. Has the experience changed you? It hasn't changed me, and it's affirmed that I'm not violent. I've never been violent in my life, but I'm not violent. In that moment, I'd have, everybody I've spoken to, even the police, she needs a whatever. I thought, no.
I reckon there's a few people I know that probably would have hit him back.
But I play the piano as well, and this is the thing that people don't. I'm not shit, but I do play and write songs and stuff. But your hands are so precious,
Soft.
And I need these for playing the piano. And how the fuck would I roll a joint if I broke my hand? You know what I mean? Practicalities, you know what I mean? And so that's something that you shouldn't say about musicians, especially guys that are proper. If you need to fight them, don't panic, because unless they're lead singers that can't play a fucking note, you're not going to get a punch back.
Yeah, I heard something about that. I remember someone told me a while ago, the lead guitarist in Queen, like he's got very soft hands, and someone tried giving him a strong handshake, and he got quite offended by it. And that's because and people often assume if you give a weak handshake, you're a weak man. Maybe it's a good excuse for me if I have a weak handshake. Just say, listen, I'll play. No, I
don't know. I like I don't give a fuck about handshakes as long as they're not funny ones. I really don't give a shit.
Or dirty ones where you have to wash your hands afterwards.
Me, if you're trying to find out if I'm a mason or something, you're doing that thing. And I've met very prominent people on the other side.
Oh,
that thing in Scotland, the sectarian thing, and I've had funny shakes off both sides of the camp. So you've got like Masonic handshakes to let you know you're a Mason, or you've got Hibernian handshakes, apparently. And a very, very prominent person gave me one of them, and I thought, oh, that was weird. So how did we get onto that?
I'll be honest, yeah. And you said that I haven't asked, but the podcast has taken a lot of different directions than I expected it to go. But I honestly, mate, I like that about the podcast. I never know where it's going to go. And each conversation I have with someone on a podcast, I learn something in terms of interviewing people. each one. Um,
Did we kick together?
you know,
Edinburgh.
if you saw me dressed in a Zorro costume, then yes.
Were you doing a panel show in the Three Sisters? It was like I can't remember the name of the show. It was like a Who's Line It Anyway with random comedians from the Fringe. And it was me and a guy that looked so like you and a guy with a top hat.
Okay,
No,
so my comedy act is I play Zorro, and it's
right.
called Asian Zorro, so it's unlikely to be me. There is another Asian comic that's a lot shorter than me, who wears glasses, called Sammy C.
Right.
Maybe you mistook him for me. I don't know, but
No, I kind of recognised your face there, an expression you pulled, and then I realised, it kind of probably had some kind of racial undertones. So I'm backpedaling away from that.
oh, it's no worries, mate. It's no worries. Right, this guy's cancelled. No, I'm joking. I'm easy going. It's the intent of what people say, though, isn't it? A lot of the times, it's.
When did that stop to matter? When did the intent behind what someone was saying cease to be important?
It seems to be the case now, unless like it's just. I reckon if you said that now, what you said to me to someone who is a bit more on the sensitive side, my God, it would have been interesting to see. But yeah, I don't know. But the thing is, because they don't have anything to be really angry about, so they want something that they choose to get angry over something that's asinine.
But I think there's a lot of fear put into young people, and this sort of freedom of expression and everything that they're living with now, not knowing what it was like beforehand, and how could they know if they've never experienced it? And I'm old enough to realise that I've done that myself with my elders growing up, and a lot of young people now, thank God, feel quite comfortable telling their parents they're gay or whatever, or trans, whatever they are. I don't. I don't envy parents having to go through that process with trans kids, and I think that's a very complicated thing and all the rest of it. But they're living in a different world, and and kids are encouraged to be themselves, which is brilliant. That's great. I think it's going to fix a lot of problems with people's mental health and going forward and all of that. And I think they think if people are attacking them or saying anything remotely negative, that they're in danger of that being the sort of, the chink in the armor that brings it all down. If somebody's having a joke at their expense, or if they're perceiving they're having a joke at their expense, and the explosion of people who are identifying as not neurotypical and things like that, and people are so reactionary, and people on the left think that if you're standing even remotely to the right of them, that you are the right, and it's just everybody needs to chill the fuck out.
I think it's also to do with branding as well.
I don't know what I'm talking about, man. I'm ranting. I'm sorry.
What you said there, I've had a chat with a few people recently in the podcast, and a lot of what you said there is just, especially in comedy, they've got certain audiences now. They've used that to build an audience, like people on the right and people on the left, like free speech, and they have to stick religiously to it, even if maybe their opinions change because they're upset with the audience that they've built. And otherwise, they'll probably be not making much money from gigs and just be. So now it's part of their brand.
Yeah,
it's part of the image.
a few people get famous on the back of political movements and different musicians as well, and singers and songwriters. It's old as the hills, man.
I tell you what, I watched something recently. I watched Tony Hinchcliffe and his little clip with. Have you seen that?
What clips that I haven't? I know Tony. I've watched. It's not really my cup of tea, but I know who you're talking about.
I'll show you a quick little clip, and I'd like to see what your thoughts on it. But it's a famous clip. It's made that comedian famous. Well, no, not famous. It's given him actually a bit of a following. The guy that he filmed it with.
Don't always made him famous.
But Tony Hinchcliffe, well, I think it's maybe even made him more famous. I'm not sure, but this is what happened.
Give it up for the. Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
That's it.
I didn't even. I think I switched it off, mate.
I'll stop it. But I mean, I'll be honest. If he said that to me, I'll probably not be cool with him. I'll probably walk off stage. Well, he did walk off stage, but yeah, it's yeah. I mean, that's that. The way it doesn't come across. Yeah, that if it's behind closed, yeah, I wouldn't be okay with that.
If you haven't, I believe you can say anything on stage. Anything. You can say anything you want.
But the
You
tone,
can express yourself in any way you want. You should be able to and free to say whatever the fuck you like. But see if you're a comedian and you do that and you haven't got the skill to frame what you're saying professionally, properly, and in a way that makes everybody laugh, then don't do it. Don't say anything like that. If you're going to come across as a racist wanker. Now, you know what comedians are like backstage, try to, one up on each other, we've been the funniest and all that sort of stuff, and all the dick swinging that goes on, all the inappropriate humor that goes on, and the things comedians say, and some of the things that me and my comedian pals say to one another are fucking horrific, but they're between friends and it's banter and it's your pals. To go on stage and maybe take that energy, I'm being very generous to Hinchcliffe, whatever his name is here, but it came across as just really racist and stupid and really not funny, and you get fucking dragged over the coals for it. And we've moved on, I think, and I think that's a good system.
yeah.
I don't think you should be setting fire and
no, we shouldn't. Definitely
you know
that.
what I mean?
Definitely that. Definitely not that. But
get your shit together and don't say something so stupid.
But yeah, definitely the way that was exactly. I agree 100% what you said. If you would take it definitely the wrong way because the way it wasn't delivered in the right way at all. Definitely the wrong way. It's like saying the end, like having a black comic and then saying the other thing in that way. But yeah.
Well, that word is, if people of colour want to use that word, then have at it. I sure as fuck won't. And
yes, I won't.
It's got no business being in my mouth or in my head. It's just, comes with a lot of baggage. And if you're going, which is the understatement of the century, and it's people who you see a lot of new comics that come out. I say I'm still new. I've only been going properly in the last not even properly, just going as best I can the last 5 years. So I'm still a baby in terms of experience and all that. But I think if you're going to go on stage and say something like that and you can't follow it through, then you're an idiot. You're not qualified to be up there.
Yeah. It seems though, I mean, despite the backlash and everything, they both seem to have gained. Both of them seem to have gained from it, which is what it is, eh?
That's what it is,
The one thing that is a bit funny, and I'm definitely going to get. I really want to get Will Franklin on. Do you know that thing that he had with Comedy Unleashed? I really want to hear his story because I really used to admire Comedy Unleashed and their freedom of speech. But I heard that they got rid of Alistair Beckett King's insult on them, and they got rid of Will Franklin's stuff because he made fun of certain things that they were involved in. So I would love to find out on the other side of that because, yeah, I don't know. My opinion on Comedy Unleashed has changed because of what I hear on that.
I don't know. I don't really want to comment on other comedians. I think it's. I'm regretting even saying all that about Tony there, not because it's like it's so difficult, and it can be so difficult. It can be so hard, and you're just trying to make people laugh, and it's like it becomes so difficult. And if you've got like ADHD and like fuck all knows what else I've got, and I'm quite an open guy, you start to pull back because you're scared. It starts, the art form then really starts to suffer. And comedians need to learn. You need to go out and push it and push it and push it, and get burned and go, fuck, right, okay, that wasn't right. I'm talking about serial killers and all sorts of stuff I talk about, and getting laughs talking about some pretty horrific shit, because I think You know, you need to, if you laugh, you take away the power in it. It becomes less scary. And I always, my wee tagline, when you laugh, you win. I say it all the time. And we need to laugh at ourselves and laugh at things and more than we're doing. And I spoke about doing a roast battle with a comedian that I'm really quite pally with. And obviously, both of us have things, you know, that would be so dodgy for people to attack us on or, you know, roast us on. But, you know, we're thinking about doing it and doing something really quite mental to see if it works, to see, you know, to see if it's good, to see if it gets laughs and if it's funny, you know, then it's valid, I think. And obviously, we're grown men and we're pals and the audience know that it's okay.
You can take the...
Right, let's just have a laugh. Because comedy's supposed to be about rock and roll. And there's guys out there that are pure rock. John Fothergill, man, that guy is pure rock and roll. And what a comedian. He's fucking brilliant. You know, people don't really, the wider public don't really know who he is. Comedians, and we're supposed to be in a golden age of comedy. And I don't know how many acts out there that are absolutely phenomenal. And nobody knows who they are. You know, it's a funny old game.
It certainly is, yeah. It's yeah, there's a lot of really brilliant people that should get more, but it is what it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, for everyone that's listening right now, and because we've tackled a lot in this podcast,
Have we?
what we've tackled a lot of things that, well, no, definitely, mate, we definitely have.
Sorry, I do smoke. It's the last advice I've got. Don't smoke, kids. It's a disgusting topic.
What would be your life advice for navigating comedy?
Oh, that all depends on who I'm speaking to, because why in comedy? You know, and if you can't give me a good reason, then, you know, go away. It's a beautiful art form. It's a wonderful kind of medium. It's a good way of communicating. A comedian, if he's doing his job right, will take over your thinking for an hour and a half or 20 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever you're doing. They take over your thinking and they take you out yourself and you're able to laugh. And if they're doing their job right, you maybe feel you're doing something a bit naughty, you know, but it's just like thrills at a horror movie or laughs at a comedy, you know, just a release, being together, getting that feeling, you know, and the room's vibing and you walk off stage and you're just on cloud nine. It's very rare that happens because I'm never happy with what, very rarely am I delighted with what I've done. So very frustrating thing. And if you're not in it to take the rejection, to take you're totally stripped of, I mean, comedy, I went through it with comedy, you know, and dealing with so many other things at the same time. I'm only diagnosed ADHD in the last 6 months. So, you know, every thought I've had up until the age of 40 has been controlled by or impacted by this thing that I was aware of, but I wasn't aware of. So it's, you know, if you're not in it, if you're going to go through it, you're going to feel the worst you've ever felt. And plus you've got people that would literally watch you drown to get 5 minutes at a comedy club. And it's that cutthroat. I had no idea. Everybody warned me, but I had no clue, you know, what it was going to be like. And as I said before, it's not all doom and gloom. It seems to be a lot of nasty people are leaving or getting on with other things or changing their behaviour, which is all fantastic. But if you're not bulletproof and if you're not passionate about comedy, you're not going to survive. You're just going to make yourself miserable. So you need to be in it with your heart and soul, respect it and love it, and know when to get off stage. You know, and if you're coming in thinking, oh, I'm going to be the next Frankie Boyle, and we walk up there and just say a lot of horrific shit, and I'm going to be famous because I've got no shame, right? Right. People might say that about me, Marvin. I don't know, but you know, if you're
Thanks for confessing. No, I'm joking.
you know, if you're going to go on stage and just say a lot of horrific shit, and you don't have the fucking tools to frame it properly, to look after the room, if you walk on stage and offend a full room, Stu Hu, one of the best guys on the planet, told me this years ago, and it's so true. You walk out on stage and you offend the full room, then nobody's going to come back and see you. You don't want to offend your audience. You know, you want to shock, and you want to have a laugh, and you want them to know that you're all right, that they're all right, everyone's okay. You know, we're all going to leave, and everybody's going to be clapping. It's going to be great. Just relax and let the comedian get on with it. But if you've not got the balls, you've not got the fucking drive to keep you going back for more when it's so difficult, you're not going to make it. And even if you're brilliant, you're probably not going to make it.
All right. You've heard it there last, guys. Guys, get out. No, I'm joking. No. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Wasn't much a pep talk, was it?
No, it was very much a sort of, listen here, Sonny Jim. If you ain't got the fucking minerals, son, get the fuck out. That's what it was. But listen here, Sonny Jim's back in. If you ain't got the minerals, you better get the fuck out of comedy. All right, eh?
But listen, see if you love it, and if you've got a spark for it, and you're up there, you'll fucking know. And it's the best thing in the world.
Okay.
That better.
Yes. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed the episode. You know where to find out about Colin. I will give you his address as well. You know where to find out about Colin. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. Give this episode a review on Amazon iTunes, and I will see you guys soon. Take care, guys.